Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Taylor, and I am the advocate of the devil. You can't hawk a loogie without hitting a superhero movie anymore. Between Marvel knocking it out of the park every time they step up to the plate, DC still running around and hopefully, maybe, finally finding their footing, the X-Men, the Fan 4-Stick, everything. Everything. The number of bad comic book movies practically equal the number of good, past and present and surely future as well. But hey, that's not so bad, right? Before everything heroic was everything we wanted to watch, these things were mostly 50-50. Enter Logan. Well, no, not that one. That one. Universally reviled as a complete, total waste of time. Hell, they even needed a franchise reboot / timeline mashup to fix the damage done. But here's the thing. See, I saw this one in theaters when it first came out, and even to this day, I can defend it. So, hey, guess what? This week, that's what I'm doing. You'd think that a man whose entire skeleton is made of an unbreakable metal would be impervious to everything. Alas, sticks and stones actually do break bones. Well, spirits anyways, which is precisely why all the criticism hurled in the direction of this film is, I think, misguided. Now, of course, it's straight from the source material. What superhero movie doesn't these days? Even Marvel does it. Spider-Man Homecoming did it. MJ my ass. The Civil War kept elements, but it might have been called something else for all it had to do with that particular story arc. I've always said this about properties, but different medium equals different universe. And by giving us a different way of looking at the Wolverine, it allowed us as an audience to catch a glimpse of some of the lesser known mutants. Guys like the Blob wouldn't have been able to be seen in a mainline X-Men movie.
Did you just call me Blob? No,
but he could hold his own in this one. Then there's John Rieth, aka Kestrel. Origins was filmed after X-Men 2, but takes place before the events of all of the original trilogy. A teleporting mutant was required for the ending, and Nightcrawler, he wasn't around chronologically. Outside of Logan himself, there isn't much interaction with John and the other mutants in X-Men lore, so perfect time to bring him on board here. Of course, that also brings us to the most important character who isn't our protagonist.
I'm touching myself tonight.
No, not him. Well, not yet. I'm talking, of course, about Sabretooth. Now sure, he was around in the very first movie. However, his dialogue consisted mostly of grunts and growls. He was the muscle. Dumb muscle at that. But here in Origins, we have a chance to see a cold, calculating, vicious monster to go after our hero. We get a little bit more characterization out of him, and Liev Schreiber? Whatever his name is, played that character to the extreme. Which brings me to my second point, the one that always kind of irked me about the original trilogy, besides the gray rubber bodysuits being placed on everybody, it's the action scenes. Sure, the bit on the Statue of Liberty was cool, and everything was well paced and everything, but it was missing something. And that something is a level of violence. Logan's innards are made of an impenetrable metal skeleton. He can heal from every kind of wound inflicted, and he's got knives coming out of his knuckles. But what happens every time he goes to swipe at someone? He misses, or it grazes them on the side. We get what, 2 stabs in the first one? If that? And that stabbies all got healed within moments. Cyclops shoots freaking laser beams out of his eyes, and he never uses them to incinerate someone. Now, some of this can be chalked up to the film's rating. PG-13 allows for people smacking each other around, but the level of blood and gore has to be limited. However, I've always said that limitations are a fantastic way of breeding creativity. Watch this scene.
you just don't know it yet.
No blood or gore, but man, if you didn't cringe during that scene, you are made of tougher stuff than I. Then you have the part where Victor manages to grab Riot's spine mid-teleport. The PG-13 rating may have proven troublesome in terms of getting the violence up to Splatterhouse levels, but it did allow the creators to come up with intriguing ways of eliminating our heroes in a way that fit into that particular guideline. Now, I can't talk about this movie, I can't even say that I've properly defended it here without bringing up the Merc with a mouth, Wade Wilson.
Why don't you do us all a favor and shut the fuck up? Or I'll sew your pretty mouth shut.
Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Ryan Reynolds crossed with a Sharpay. Yes, despite all the timeline hopping and retconning and everything else that the internet and Hollywood has tried to do to erase this idea from our memories, the first instance of Deadpool on the big screen was right here in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Just don't say anything, okay?
Now I know what you're all about to say, that this was an absolute clusterfuck of an adaptation. That Deadpool here is just terrible in every conceivable way. Well, except the casting, of course. And for once, I would actually agree with the vast majority. This is not Deadpool. But the point I made earlier still stands. For all intents and purposes, Deadpool was not a major character. He wasn't Wolverine or Spider-Man or Batman or Superman or any of them. He was on the sidelines, not the spotlight. This movie, for all its many flaws, allowed a larger movie-going audience to experience some of the lesser-known characters. A character that Ryan Reynolds was born to play. In fact, it's largely because of this crappy adaptation of that character that support for the character grew. We knew this wasn't the character from the comics. Not one bit. Now we live in a world where R-rated superhero movies can be made. Logan was stupendous. Deadpool is one of my top 5 of all time. All because of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I do hope I managed to shed some light into the positive aspects of the first solo outing of everyone's favorite Weapon X. Whether it be in how it creatively brought the violence and fury that only Logan can do, or in shining a spotlight on some of the lesser known mutants in this particular franchise, Huge Jacked Man was acting his ass off to make these movies the best that they could possibly be. And if that wasn't enough, let's all just take a moment of happy reflection, since without this movie, we wouldn't have Deadpool. One and dos to look forward to. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for a new piece of my mind every Wednesday. And let your verdict be heard in the comments below. Am I just clawing at straws here? By all means, let your own views clash with my own, so that I may proceed to prove you wrong.
Kaboom! You've been lawyered.
But for now, in the case of X-Men Origins Wolverine, the defense rests.
Mr. Taylor, you look worse than usual.
Yeah, thanks, boss.
You just look drained, that's all.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have me defending crappy movies that have no good in them. I mean, viewership is down, I'm poor, I've been sober for months. Do I really need to continue?
Oh, please don't.
Oh, yeah, and my boss is a dick.
Yeah, well, your boss is on vacation next week.
Dude, where can you even go?
Anywhere and everywhere. Next week, I'm out. Do whatever you want.
Well, now that I have your permission. Oh, next week is gonna be fun.